Hello students, I hope you all are fine and healthy. We are reading chapter number 17, Forest, Our Lifeline. In our previous video, we have read about the structure of forest. So a forest is divided into 5 horizontal layers or 5 zones that are canopy, understory, herb layer, shrub layer and the forest floor. So a forest is divided into these 5 horizontal layers, and we also learn about the importance of forest. So forest provides us many useful products. Forest also helps in maintaining the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. Forest also helps in maintaining the water cycle in nature. The forest also keeps the climate cool. The forest also prevents the soil erosion, and the forest also prevents the occurrence of floods. So these are some of the importance of the forest. Today we will learn how the forest grows and why the forests are being cut increasingly, and what are the effects of destruction of forest, and how can we conserve the forest. The forest can grow and regenerate on their own. They don't need anyone for growing or getting regenerated. The trees and plants in the forest, they can grow on their own and can regenerate or reproduce the forest. The dead parts of the trees and plants and the dead animals and the animal waste, they keeps on collecting on the forest floor. The decomposer organisms, they act on the dead plants and animal matter and the animal waste, and they convert these all waste into the humus. Now humus is a dark colored substance which contain nutrients. Now this humus, which contains so many nutrients, it gets mixed with the forest soil and makes it fertile. The animals and birds of the forest, wind and water, they all disperse the seeds of the plants and trees in the forest. So these all animals, birds, wind and water, they help in the dispersal of seeds of the plants and trees that are in the forest. Now these seeds obtain the nutrients and water from the forest soil, and they germinate to form seedlings. The seedling then grows into the saplings, and then the sapling grows into the big trees. The growing of new trees and plants on their own regenerates the forest naturally. The animals help to grow and regenerate the forest in two ways: the dead animals and animal waste. It gets decay and provide the nutrients to the forest soil and make it fertile. The animals carry out pollination in the flowers, and they disperse the seeds of plants and trees throughout the forest. Nobody has planted any trees in the forest. The natural forest contains trees and plants which have grown on their own. So now we will learn why are the forest trees being cut down increasingly, or why they are cut at a rapid or a fast rate. As we know that our population is increasing day by day. A large number of forest trees are being cut down every day to fulfill the increasing demands of our population. Due to the increase in the population, the demand of the forest wood for the various purposes has increased to a large extent. Forests are being cut down to clear the land for the agriculture, so that more crops can be grown to feed the increasing population. The forests are also cut down to construct the roads, buildings, industries and many other things. Some of the important reasons for the cutting down of the forest are to obtain the firewood. The forests are also cut down to obtain the timber for the various purposes. The forests are cut down to obtain wood for making paper. Forests are also cut down to clear land for cultivation of crops in the agriculture. Forests are also cut down for the construction of roads, houses, buildings, dams, etc. So these are some of the reasons behind the cutting down of the forest on a large scale. Now we will learn about the effect of destruction of forest. So right now we read that the trees in the forest, they grow on their own. So when the trees are cut down in a forest, so the new trees grows in their place naturally after some time. But the new trees in the forest, they grows at a slow rate. Due to this, the number of trees and plants that are cut down from the forest for the various purposes, it is much more than the number of trees that grows in a forest naturally. The cutting down of the forest at a rapid rate or a fast rate, it can make the forest disappear one day. The destruction of forest will have many effects on us, other animals and the environment. So some of the effects are: destruction of forest will lead to the shortage of wood and other forest products that are being used by us. As we know that the forest helps in maintaining the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. Now when they will be cut at a fast rate, so the destruction of the forest will disturb the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. We also know that the roots of the trees and plants, they holds the soil together and prevents the soil erosion. Now the destruction of forest, it will cause the soil erosion, leading to the infertile soil in which we can't grow crops. As we have read that the forest prevents the floods also. So the destruction of forest will cause the frequent flooding of the rivers. Now this frequent flooding of the rivers, it will cause the loss of our lives and property. We know that the water gets evaporated from the forest trees by the process of transpiration. Now when the forest will be destructed, so it will affect the water cycle, due to which the less rain will fall, or there will be less rainfall. Since the forests are the habitat of the wildlife and there are many plants in the forest, now the destruction of forest will lead to the extinction of many species of the wild animals and plants, or we can say it will lead to the extinction of many varieties or many kinds of wild animals and the plants. The destruction of forest, it can also change the Earth's climate. So these are some of the effects that will be caused due to the destruction of the forest. Now we will learn about the conservation of forest. Since the forests are very important to us, so we should conserve the forest. Now the conservation of forest is necessary to maintain the supply of food and other forest products. It is also important to conserve the forest to maintain the healthy balance between the carbon dioxide and oxygen. The conservation of forest is important to maintain the water cycle in the nature and for the sufficient rainfall. Forest conservation is also important to prevent the soil erosion and the floods. Conservation of forest is also important to protect or to prevent the wild animals and plants from the extinction. Conservation of forest is also important to prevent or to protect our climate. Though it is not wrong to cut the forest trees for the various desirable uses, but it should be done at a slow rate so that the forest trees are able to regenerate naturally. Since forests are very important for us, other animals and the environment, so we should conserve the forest. So some steps that we can follow to conserve our forest are: the excessive or the large amount of cutting down of forest should not be allowed by the government to conserve the forest. More trees should be planted in the place of cut down trees to conserve the forest. Paper products such as newspapers, magazines, etc. should be recycled to conserve the forest. Paper is made from the wood pulp that is produced from the wood of the forest trees. So to make paper, many trees have to be cut down from the forest. If all of us keeps on collecting old newspapers, magazines and books etc. and send them to the paper mills for the recycling through the junk dealers, then we will be able to save many forest trees from being cut down. So these are the some of the ways in which we can protect our forest. So we should save our forest because they are not important only for us, but they are also important for the other animals and the environment. If all the forest will be vanished, so we will also not be there. There will be not living being on the earth. So our chapter is over now. Now we will discuss some questions related to our chapter.
So our first question is, what are decomposers? Name any two decomposers, and what do decomposers do in a forest? So decomposers are those microorganisms which break down, or we can say which convert the dead parts of plants and the dead bodies of animals into simple substances, or we can call they convert them into humus. So the two decomposers are fungi and bacteria. The decomposers play a very important role in the forest. They helps in breaking down the dead parts of the plant and dead bodies of animals into the simple substances like nutrients, carbon dioxide and water. Now these nutrients, carbon dioxide and water, they can be reused by the plants. So the nutrients that are formed by the decomposition of dead plants and dead animals, they get mixed with the soil of the forest and increases the fertility of the soil. And these nutrients that are in the soil, they can be again used by the plants for their growth. Now, along with the feeding on dead plants and animals, the decomposers also breaks down the animal waste and convert it into nutrients. So the decomposers are having some importance, which are they return the nutrients that are present in the dead plants, dead animals and the animal waste to the soil. So they help in maintaining the supply of nutrients to the growing plants in the forest. Now by carrying out the decomposition, the they prevent the dead plants, dead animals and animal waste from getting collected in the forest. It means they helps in keeping the forest clean. Next question is, explain how forest prevents soil erosion. So do you remember what is soil erosion? Soil erosion means the removal of fertile topsoil from a place by wind, rain or river water. Now the roots of the plants that are growing in the forest, they binds the particles of topsoil and holds the particles of the soil together. Now due to this holding, or we can say the binding of soil particles together, the strong winds and the flowing rainwater, they are not able to carry away the topsoil, and due to this the soil erosion is prevented. Now the canopy of the trees or the canopy of the forest and the many layers of vegetation that are found in the forest, they also decrease the effect of heavy rains on the soil, due to which the soil does not become loose, and hence they also prevent the soil erosion. Now our next question is, explain how forest prevents flood. We know that the forest floor is covered with a lot of decaying material and the small vegetation. So due to this, the forest floor behaves like a giant sponge, and it absorbs most of the rainwater which falls down during a heavy rain. And the roots of the trees and plants help this rainwater to seep into the ground and recharge the groundwater or recharge the water table. Now the forest release this absorbed water slowly and regularly into the rivers through the soil. So in this way, the forest not only helps in controlling the floods, but they also helps in maintaining the flow of water in the rivers whole the year. Now our next question is, describe the role of forest in maintaining the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. Now we human beings and other animals gives out carbon dioxide during the respiration. That carbon dioxide goes into the atmosphere, and the fuels that we burn at our homes, in the vehicles and the industry, they also release carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now the green plants and the trees, they absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere when they prepare their food by the process of photosynthesis. So in this way, the plants reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now, the green plants and trees also release oxygen during the process of photosynthesis. So, they also are the supplier of oxygen that is needed by the humans and other animals for the breathing and respiration. So since the green plants and trees, they supply the oxygen, and they also reduce the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So in this way, they helps in maintaining the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. Now, due to the supplying of oxygen for the breathing and respiration by the green plants and trees, the forests are also known as the green lungs of the earth. Now our next question is, describe the importance of forest for us, other animals and the environment. So the importance of forest are, they provide us many useful products that are known as the forest products, like the wood, honey, gum, caoutchouc. They all are the forest product, and the most important product that we get from the forest. It is wood, which we obtain by cutting down the forest trees. The forest also helps us in maintaining the balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. The forest also maintains the water cycle in the nature, and they also keeps the climate of a place cool and prevents the soil erosion. The forest also prevents the occurrence of the flood, and the forests provide food and shelter to the wild animals and the birds which lives in the forest. So if there will be no forest, then the wild animals and the birds, they will not get food and shelter, so they will either get killed or they will die. Now the forest also provide food and shelter to the forest dwelling people, means the people who lives in the forest. So these are some of the importance of the forest.
So that's it, students. We will start our new chapter in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye. Take care.